Hey everyone, as promised, this is the video where I will be discussing the details as to what happened back in our apartment where we were for 5 years, me and my boyfriend Brian, which led to us breaking our lease 3 months earlier and moving into this new house here, which we absolutely love. The reason why I'm making this video is not to scare you guys, but just to share what we've been through back when we were in the apartment, something we hadn't shared with you, and also to give some light on some issues that even nowadays, as an LGBT couple, gay couple, we experience. I think it's important to raise awareness on the situation and share it and hopefully educate people which are not educated enough on these issues. Anyways, before we delve deeper into the issue, I wanted to say a big thank you to one of our top supporters. Actually, it's Alexandra Macrigiani. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. A big thank you to you. You've been a top supporter for a while now, and it means a lot to us. So thank you so much, and hopefully you're watching the video. And also, just a message for you, I'm going to send you your personal video update probably over the weekend. So thank you so much for your support. So just before I jump into the events that led to us breaking our lease a couple months back, I just want to tell you guys some infos about us. For those of you who don't know already, me and my boyfriend Brian, we live in the province of Quebec in Canada. Canada is known for being open with LGBT communities. Most of the people here are fine with me being gay and for us being a couple living together. But even so, I faced some homophobia growing up, even back when I was in university trying to complete my bachelor's degree. Or other examples would be there's a gay area in downtown Montreal, the Gay Village. You can go there, hold your boyfriend's hand, everything's fine, but as soon as you get out of range of this gay community, I remember once I was holding Brian's hand and we would, maybe one or two streets further, we were called by bystanders, and it was awful. And usually we don't show affection in public because of fear that people will either say something nasty, or I try to avoid confrontations at all costs. And all this to say that yes, things are better for LGBT people nowadays than they were 30 years ago, but there is some much more improving to do. And the reason why I'm sharing my story right now is because I want to educate you guys and share my experience with you. And if you guys have the same kind of experience or issues, you can say it in the comment section below. I think it's really important to talk about it. Growing up, I wish I had as many LGBT YouTubers as there are right now, so I could identify with them, because I felt so alone growing up being gay. Anyways, I'm getting off track. So what I'm going to discuss today is what happened back in our apartment. We actually moved in July of 2015, and we stayed up until the 1st of April this year, so 2020, which roughly, if we round it up, it's 5 years. One thing you don't realize when you're gay, and you might not realize it until you're faced with it, is when you're looking for a place to live together with your boyfriend, there is this fear at the back of your head that maybe the landlord is not going to be accepting of your homosexuality, or maybe you're going to be faced with some homophobic tenants. And these fears just start pouring into your head and getting you anxious about finding a place to live, which is supposed to be, you know, such a great experience when you get your first place with a person you love and you want to be happy there. But as soon as you start looking for places, there's always these things rolling in the back of your head. And I remember when we visited the place where we eventually moved in, I loved the place, and then I was really anxious to tell the landlord about my relationship with Brian. And he was actually the first one to ask us, are you two friends? And then I was like, should we lie about our relationship in case he's homophobic, or should I tell the truth? Because eventually if he finds out and he's homophobic, then blah, blah, blah. And we decided to tell him that we were a couple. And we were, I guess, kind of lucky in a sense that he was extremely open, and he was like, oh, I'm glad that you guys are a couple, because I mainly accept only people that are in a relationship together and not just friends, because friends, you know, there can be some fights between them and one leaves. Well, couples, it's rarer, if I can say that. Anyways, he was super open about it, and he said, you know, you have one life, you can live it as happy as you want, and if you're gay, that's totally okay with me. So that was one stress that was put out of the way. So our landlord was accepting, and then he forced us to meet the tenants that would be below us, because the complex where we lived, there were 3 apartments, one at the top, which would be ours, one on the main floor, the middle floor, and then a young couple that lived in the basement. So we met. It was a lady with a guy maybe in their mid-50s. Let's call the woman S and the guy B, so a couple of BS. And they were living on the middle floor, so we got to meet the lady first. And apart from the fact that when she opened her door, there was this strong odor of cigarette coming out, she seemed okay, I guess. She didn't seem to mind that we were a couple, and she seemed okay with us moving in upstairs. So anyways, quickly we signed the lease for the apartment. Here in Quebec, I don't know if it's the same around the world, but leases tend to always begin on the 1st of July and end exactly 1 year after, on the 1st of the other July. So July 1st is like a day here, especially in Quebec, where everyone changes from place to place or renew their lease for their apartment. So anyways, we move in. We're super happy. The place is kind of old, and there are some renovations to be done, but we were just so excited to be finally able to live together in our own place, that, you know, we didn't mind that there was a bit of mold there and some windows that needed some reparations. We were just so excited to move in, and we did, and we started making videos, and everything was cool. But then our relationship with our downstairs tenant, the one on the middle floor, BNS, started to go downhill right from the start. Every time we would walk past them, either in the hallway, the common hallway, or back on our balcony, or in the driveway, they would always complain about something. Like every time we would walk past them, they would say like, "Hi, oh, by the way, your cat is very noisy," or "By the way, when you walk, it's really noisy. Could you walk more quietly, please?" And they would always complain about things, and we were like, "Oh, okay, it's fine." We didn't want to be the bad tenants. Maybe it was our fault. Who knows? And we started being very cautious about what we were doing, trying not to make too many noise. But then as time went by, it began to be really annoying that everything we did caused them some sort of trouble, apparently, and that they had to complain to us. And I remember one time, I think it was 2 years after we moved in our apartment, we received, for the first time, I had my family over for dinner, and I was super excited. They would come over at around 4 p.m. and then just leave around 7, 8 p.m. just for dinner, talk, you know. So I had my mother, my father come, and then my sister came with her 2-year-old daughter and our baby son. And everything went fine. We sat down for dinner, which took about 45 minutes, an hour. Everyone was having fun. Then afterwards, my niece, which was 2 years old, just started, you know, walking around, running around the apartment. And it was a late summer. I remember that BNS were outdoors there was a little yard for the complex. They were there, and then they were drinking, because one thing I forgot to mention was that they were heavy drinkers and heavy smokers. And I guess they were really drunk at that point, but I remember we were all just talking, chatting, and then we heard BNS door inside the hallway just slam really, really hard and scream, like a really huge scream. It was really weird. We all stopped talking and we're like, what just happened? And then it happened again, and I was really confused. So I went in the main hallway to go down the stairs and knock on their doors to see what happened. And that's when they were incredibly drunk, and they told me that the niece was walking too loud, and the noise was too much for them to handle, even for 30 minutes. And the way that they said it was so inappropriate and rude that we had our first big argument there. I was absolutely angry. It ruined the evening for us. And my sister decided to leave because she felt so bad to have caused trouble, even though it wasn't her fault. So as she started to leave in the main hallway, she went down the stairs. As she was on the middle floor, right in front of their doors for BNS, I remember B opened the door, the guy opened the door, and he was completely drunk and started telling my 2-year-old niece that she was extremely loud and not well educated. And that was absolutely intense, crazy. Me and Brian were so angry. We told them to basically fuck off. And then the same night we texted our landlord and told him about what happened, and we wanted to complain about it. And he told us that he would come the next morning to discuss about it. And then the next morning, B, which was now sober, he came knock on our door, and he was almost crying and apologizing. It was out of his control because he was too drunk at the moment, and that it wasn't entirely his fault because the child was too noisy, which was absolutely absurd. And then we decided to still do a complaint to our landlord, and nothing happened afterward. We didn't get any feedback from it, and we decided not to receive any more people over for dinner because we didn't want the issue to happen again. Now, another thing I didn't mention is even though they were complaining, they were extremely noisy too, but we never complained about how much noise they made because, we live in a complex, an old complex, the walls are really thin and you can hear pretty much everything. So for us, it was normal that you could hear some kind of noise from time to time. And them, when they had visit over a friend, I remember one time they had a friend over and they were shouting up until 2 a.m., 3 a.m., completely drunk. They were shouting random things outside and they were really, really noisy, and we didn't even complain back then because you know what? They had a friend over, so we kind of understood at the time and we let it pass. But then, as I said earlier, every time we would meet them again afterwards, they'd start complaining again about stupid things. Brian was working at the time and they complained that they could hear him go down the stairs to get to his car to go to work every morning because they didn't work. B was retired and S just didn't have a job, and they were there all the time and they would just complain. It was absolutely awful, and we endured this for 5 years up until I remember it's maybe 3 or 4 months back. It was in February. We actually came back from work because we were both working at the time, and we remember smelling a strong odor of cigarette in the main hallway, which led up to our apartment door. And usually BNS didn't smoke in the main areas of the building, which are shared by everyone because it's illegal to do so. But apparently they did, and it wasn't the first time. It had been 3 or 4 times the past winters that we had noticed the smell. And we notified the landlord immediately because, you know what, Brian is asthmatic, and the odor was so strong that it got through our main door into our living room, and it stank like hell. And so we texted our landlord and we told him, you know what, it smells really strongly, cigarette here. I'm sure they smoke in the hallway. Could you maybe come see for yourself and maybe warn them that they shouldn't do it? Because we didn't want to have to deal with BNS at that point in person. So apparently our landlord simply texted B to stop smoking in the hallway really bluntly. And again, it was a Saturday and they were having a party downstairs. They were really loud again and extremely drunk. And as soon as B received the text message from the landlord, I remember I was in the kitchen with Brian and we just heard the door slam again in the hallway, and he started shouting some words, but we didn't understand them at first. I was really confused. I was like, oh my God, it must be because of the warning of the landlord. So I grabbed my microphone because at that point I was so tired of them complaining and doing crazy stuff that I wanted to record everything to show the landlord because I didn't want it to be our words versus their words. I wanted to have proof of what was happening. And then as I was taking the microphone, he opened his door again in the main hallway and shouted. Now I'm probably going to censor this part because I don't want to be reported or demonetized here on YouTube. So he basically shouted that we were just a bunch of in that we weren't courageous enough to go face him in person, and he was extremely drunk. You could tell by the way he was talking. So at that point, I had my microphone on, and I just opened my door to go confront him, because I had enough of this situation, of the way he talked to us. So I went downstairs and confronted him, and he was pretty startled, pretty surprised to see me, because I didn't mention it, but all the other times when we had to deal with them, it was mostly Brian who was talking to both BNS, because I didn't want to have anything to do with them. I hated them, and it would be draining for me psychologically to go talk to them. But at that point, I had enough, and they weren't used to dealing with me. So I think he was taken aback by that. So I just confronted him, and I told him, like, why did you say you're just an homophobe because you said those nasty things? And then he tried to lie and say, no, that's not what I said. I never said that. And I had actually recorded him. And to one point he told me, which is the worst excuse he could have said. He said, I can't be homophobic because my aunt is a lesbian, so that's why I can't be homophobic. So if I said that, I didn't mean it, and I'm not an homophobic person, and blah, blah, blah. And I think he realized at that point that he had messed up really bad. At one point, his wife S came out and tried to save the situation, and then we started talking, and she admitted that she was knocking on the roof and on the walls of her apartment when she thought we were making too much noise. And the way she did so, I remember once Bryan was just passing the vacuum cleaner in the apartment. He was doing that maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and it's just your regular vacuum cleaner. And she thought it was too noisy, and she started banging on the walls on the roof for like an hour, and it was really intense. And she admitted that she had done that to teach us a lesson somehow. Anyways, we had enough at that point. Obviously, we couldn't stand each other, so we contacted our landlord and said that we wanted to break our lease. And I had prepared a whole document of events that had happened up until then, for reasons why our landlord had to allow us to break our lease. Because if you break a lease without any good reason, the landlord can either refuse or charge you fees for that, and we didn't want that at all. We just wanted to leave as soon as possible, which turned out it would be the 1st of April. And then we started looking for places to move, and my parents actually found the house where we are right now and helped us move in and everything. And now we went away from there. And basically, this is a whole big story just to tell that living in an apartment as a gay couple can be really frustrating and hard, especially considering that we had a bunch of homophobic, uneducated tenants below us. And it was awful to a point that we didn't feel at home anymore when we came back from work or from someplace. We didn't want to come home because we didn't want to hear them complain, or to have to face them or hear what they had to say about us, because they were always talking nasty stuff about us either in the yard. We could hear them or scream when they were drunk, and with the odor of cigarette and everything. It was just too much. This is our story of how it went in the apartment where we filmed so many videos over the past 5 years. Of course, we didn't want to let it show in the videos, but it wasn't always happy and fun. And even nowadays, as a gay couple, you can face some homophobic tenants. Or we were lucky in the sense that we didn't have an homophobic landlord. And of course, when we confronted him with what happened, he was outraged also. Of course, he accepted that we break our lease for the 1st of April. And he asked us if we could actually go in court with him to testify against the tenants, BNS, to evict them, because apparently it's extremely hard for a landlord to evict tenants, and he wanted to have as much proof as possible. And he even told us that he would send them a letter to evict them, and that if they would get angry or mad at us or scream or do anything, we should call the police to have it on file. Fortunately, I know they received the letter, but they didn't make any fuss about it, and they didn't confront us. We just avoided each other until the day we moved. And yeah, it's just a horrible situation, really. And now it feels so much better to be in a house where we feel at home and where we don't have to deal with these tenants anymore. And I know it's a long story. If you guys made it up to the end, thank you. I really want to share this because I think it's important to give visibility to these kind of situations, to teach people that it still happens even nowadays, and to be careful. And it's something we never thought we'd had to deal with, and we did, and now we're out of it and we're happy. If you had a similar situation and want to share one of your story, you can do so in the comment section below. Of course, I'm going to read them all. And with all that being said, we're going to see each other next week. Bye guys, love you so much.